Some mistakes change your schedule. Others change your life. The morning rush was chaos. Emails buzzing, meetings piling up, and 100 problems demanding his attention, all before his second cup of coffee. Nathan Cole, billionaire CEO and exhausted single dad, had barely slept. His company was on the verge of a major merger. And his 3-year-old daughter, Lily, had decided that today was the day she didn't want to wear shoes. He barely had time to think as he strapped her into the car seat, his Bluetooth earpiece flashing as he juggled a call with his assistant. "Mr. Cole, the investors are expecting." "I know, Olivia," Nathan cut in, glancing at the clock. "Running late. Again." He turned onto the familiar street. Pulling into the daycare parking lot, he barely remembered dropping Lily off. His mind was already in the boardroom, running numbers, fixing problems. "Be good, sweetheart," he murmured, pressing a quick kiss to her forehead as he handed her off to a smiling daycare worker. And then he was gone. It wasn't until 3 hours later, standing in the middle of a conference call, that his phone buzzed. A number he didn't recognize. He almost ignored it until he saw the message. "Mr. Cole, this is Miss Harper from Bright Futures Daycare. We need to talk about Lily." Nathan's stomach dropped. Bright Futures. That wasn't her daycare. His blood ran cold. He had dropped his daughter off at the wrong daycare. And now, a woman he had never met held his entire world in her hands. Nathan's pulse pounded as he grabbed his keys and bolted out of his office, leaving his assistant mid-sentence. "Cancel my meetings," he barked. "All of them." "So what?" But he was already gone. The drive to Bright Futures Daycare was a blur of honking cars and red lights that couldn't turn green fast enough. His mind raced with worst case scenarios. What if they called the cops? What if Lily was scared? What if? He didn't let himself finish the thought. By the time he screeched into the parking lot, he was out of the car before the engine even stopped, shoving open the daycare doors. A soft laugh stopped him cold. There, sitting on a tiny chair in the middle of the playroom, was Lily. Giggling as a woman with warm brown eyes and a paint-splattered apron wiped chocolate off her nose. Nathan exhaled sharply, the panic in his chest loosening. The woman looked up, and for a moment everything else faded. "Mr. Cole?" she asked, standing. Nathan nodded, swallowing hard. "Pull it together. You must be Miss Harper." She smiled. "I take it you just realized you dropped your daughter off at the wrong daycare." Nathan ran a hand through his hair. "Yeah, that would be me. World's most distracted father." Miss Harper chuckled. "Well, if it makes you feel any better, she didn't seem to mind. She's been making very important business deals in our pretend bakery all morning." Nathan glanced at Lily, who beamed at him, proudly holding up a plastic cupcake. He let out a breathless laugh, shaking his head. "That sounds about right." Miss Harper tilted her head. "You seem surprised." He hesitated. She's shy. Usually takes a while to warm up to people. Miss Harper's smile softened. "Not today." Nathan looked between his daughter and the woman who had somehow, in just a few hours, made her feel safe. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about work. And for the first time ever, he wasn't sure this was a mistake at all. Nathan crouched beside Lily, brushing a stray curl from her face. "You okay, sweetheart?" She nodded eagerly. "Daddy, I made muffins." She pointed to a tiny plastic tray filled with colorful pretend pastries. Miss Harper helped. Nathan's lips twitched into a smile before he turned back to the woman standing in front of him. I can't thank you enough for taking care of her. Miss Harper wiped her hands on her apron. It's my job, she said easily. Besides, she's a natural entrepreneur. She tried to charge me $5 imaginary for a cupcake. Nathan chuckled. She drives a hard bargain. Miss Harper crossed her arms, amusement flickering in her eyes. She said she learned it from her dad. Nathan blinked, surprised. Lily grinned. Daddy always says, know your worth. Miss Harper let out a laugh, shaking her head. Well, she's definitely got confidence. Nathan exhaled. Still processing everything. He had expected tears, panic, a traumatized 3-year-old terrified of being left with strangers. Instead, Lily looked happier than she had in weeks. Miss Harper studied him for a moment before lowering her voice. She's a bright kid, Mr. Cole, but she talks a lot about how busy you are. Nathan's smile faltered. I try to balance it, he admitted. Running a company and raising a kid alone isn't exactly easy. Her expression softened. It doesn't have to be that hard. Something about the way she said it made his chest tighten. She wasn't judging him. She understood. Lily tugged on his sleeve. Can we come back tomorrow, Daddy? Nathan hesitated. She already has a daycare. A high-end, expensive one. One I picked because it was supposed to be the best. But, was it? He looked at his daughter, her wide, hopeful eyes, then at Miss Harper, who had somehow managed to make her feel at home in just a few hours. Nathan exhaled. Yeah, sweetheart, he said, smiling. I think we can. Miss Harper raised an eyebrow. Are you saying you're switching daycares because of a scheduling mistake? Nathan met her gaze, something unreadable flickering in his eyes. Let's just say, not all mistakes are bad ones. Miss Harper tilted her head, a slow smile spreading across her face. And for the first time in years, Nathan felt something he hadn't in a long time. Like, maybe. Just maybe. He had been in the right place at the right time. Miss Harper watched him carefully, her expression thoughtful. Well, in that case, she said, wiping her hands on her apron, welcome to bright futures, Mr. Cole. Nathan smirked. Call me Nathan. She hesitated for a moment, then nodded. All right. Nathan? Lily clapped excitedly. Yeah. Now Miss Harper can be my teacher forever. Miss Harper chuckled. Let's start with a few days a week, kiddo. Nathan glanced around the room. The colorful walls, the cozy reading corner, the kids happily playing without pressure or rigid schedules. It was nothing like the high-end corporate daycare he had picked before. It felt better. He exhaled. I'll have my assistant handle the paperwork. But I'd also like to make a donation to the center. Miss Harper's brows lifted. That's generous. Nathan shrugged. Let's just say I owe you for making sure my daughter didn't end up traumatized because her dad dropped her off at the wrong place. Miss Harper smirked. You're lucky it was here and not the auto shop across the street. Nathan laughed. Actually laughed for the first time in what felt like forever. Lily tugged his sleeve again. Daddy, can we get ice cream? Nathan opened his mouth to say he had work, meetings, emails, but then he saw the way she looked up at him, full of innocent hope. And then, for the first time in a long time, work didn't feel like the most important thing. He smiled. Yeah, kiddo, let's get ice cream. Miss Harper turned back to the other kids, but as Nathan picked Lily up, he found himself hesitating. He glanced back. Miss Harper? She looked over her shoulder. Yeah. Nathan hesitated for just a second before smirking. You like ice cream? She blinked, then smiled knowingly. Depends. Who's paying? Nathan chuckled. Take a wild guess. Miss Harper crossed her arms, pretending to consider it. Then, finally, she grinned. All right, Mr. Cole, Nathan, you've got yourself a deal. Lily squealed with excitement. Nathan felt something shift inside him. Something light. Something unexpected. Maybe mistakes weren't just accidents. Maybe, sometimes, they were fate. Some moments change your plans. Others change your life. The real question is, do you recognize them when they happen?